question of trust. Hi learners, let's begin today's session with an interesting story. Dr. James Shepherd lives with his older unmarried sister, Caroline, in the country village of King's Abbot on the outskirts of London. As the local physician with an active practice, Dr. Shepherd becomes enmeshed in a mysterious suicide and murder within a 9-day period. On 17 September, Dr. Shepherd is called in when his patient Mrs. Ferrars commits suicide by overdose. He is interrogated for the drugs she possessed. A few months later, there is a murder in the village. This time, Roger Ackroyd is murdered. Why do these deaths become the talk of the town? That is because Mrs. Ferrars and Roger Ackroyd were engaged to be married. This time also, Dr. Shepherd is called to look over the case as he was the local doctor and he confirmed the death of Mr. Ackroyd. To solve the case, Hercule Poirot, the famous detective, is appointed. At every stage, Dr. Shepherd helps with the investigation. He claims that he must know what happened to two of his patients, and with him being the doctor, he can aid the investigation. Poirot does what he is best at. He looks over the case, thinks of possibilities that others might have missed. He interrogates all the family members. He has no suspects for many days. He tries to go over the clues and facts again and again. Ackroyd's nephew gets concerned because he was like a son to Roger. After a few months, Poirot tells the family members of Roger Ackroyd that he has found out who the murderer is and will tell them the next day. Everyone is holding their breaths to find out who did it. All gather at the Ackroyd house. When Poirot reveals the murderer, everyone is shocked. Can you guess who was it? It was Dr. Shepherd. This story is Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie, and it is one of my favorite novels. What's interesting about the novel is that it is written in the first-person narrative of Dr. Shepherd himself. All through the book, one never thinks of him as felon. This is because you trust him. How can the narrator lie, isn't it? Trust is risky. How do you know for sure if you can trust someone? Trust also becomes a poignant theme in our story too. Not only because of the title, but because our protagonist also falls prey to trust. But before we begin with our lesson, let me ask you a question. What is the difference between faith, belief and trust? Coming to our chapter, Horace Danby was a 50-year-old unmarried man. He made locks for a living. He was quite successful at his business. That being said, he was not a very honest man. You would think, why would someone need to steal if he was doing so well in his business? 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence in a prison library. He loved rare and expensive books. To buy these books, he could rob a safe each year. He would carefully plan his loot, and when he stole enough money to last him for 12 months, he would buy those books through an agent. This time he had decided to rob the jewels from Shotover Grange. They were about £15,000 worth and were safely kept in the Grange safe. He was walking in the bright July sunshine, thinking about how successful his heist was going to be. He had been looking over the house for a while now. The family was in London at the moment and the house was completely empty. He was very sharp as a burglar. He kept in mind every small detail that would keep him away from trouble. He always wore gloves so that no one could trace the fingerprints back to him. He took the key from the back door. He had seen the housekeeper put it there before. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. It stirred, made a noise, and moved its tail in a friendly way. "All right, Sherry," Horace said as he passed. He knew the way to calm any dog was to call them by their right names and show them love. The safe was in the drawing room. Horace always said that people who own valuable things are always foolish. They love to show off how prosperous they are. Why do you think he said that? There was a poorly installed burglar alarm and the design of the entire house had been published in the magazine. Even the location of the safe. The writer had mentioned that the painting hid a safe. Foolish, isn't it? Do you agree with Horace that people like to show off and while doing so tend to give away sensitive information? If you have any instance to share, do tell me. Horace went around the room looking for the poor painting behind which the safe was hidden. On the table was a great bowl of flour which were triggering his hay fever a little. He gave a little sneeze and got back to work. For him, opening the case was not going to be a big problem because he had lived his life with locks. He sneezed again, loudly this time. Those flowers were starting to become a hindrance. As he was about to get to work, he heard a voice in the doorway say, "What is it, a cold or hay fever?" "Hay fever," he said. The person lightly joked about how his sneezing come in the way of him being a good robber. He could be heard from the top floor also. Who do you think it was? Any guesses? Well, let us find out, shall we? It was a quiet, kindly voice, but on with firmness in it. A woman was standing in the doorway and Sherry was rubbing against her. "Down, Sherry," she said. "Anyone would think that I'd be away for a month. However, I came just in time, though I didn't expect to meet a burglar." Horace's first thought was to run, but he knew better than that. He knew she could call the police and report him. He told her that he would cut the phone lines and take necessary precautions before he left. He pleaded that he didn't want to go to prison. He put forth a deal. He would not harm her if she would let him go. But she had a better idea. What was the idea? "Before we left for London, I promised my husband to take my jewels to our bank, but I left them here in the safe. I want to wear them at a party tonight, so I came down to get them. But, Horace smiled. "You have forgotten the number to open the safe, haven't you?" He reassures her that it wouldn't be a problem for him. He will just need about an hour to get the safe opened. Within an hour, he opened the safe and gave her the jewels. He went away happily. 2 days he kept his promise to the lady that he will not do this again. On the 3rd day, he went back to his old habits. However, fate had some other plans for him. From this story, we can see that thieves require certain qualities to be better at stealing. What are those qualities? Yes, they should have a presence of mind, power of observation, analytical thinking, making a note of every small detail. Now, if these are the qualities of a successful thief, which of these did Horace lack and the woman have?